Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Denver Bronco Roundup. My name is Keith Brugman. I'm getting the controls all under control, I guess you could say. But we're in here talking the Denver Bronco Roundup podcast. And here with my good friends. My name's Keith Brugman. But I'm going to welcome in Albert Mile High Dutchy. Albert, how are we doing, sir?
Besides being cold, because the weather outside is nasty, I'm doing very well.
Yeah, you and about 2/3 of the country, man. We got snow in New Orleans right now. Last time my wife was telling me all about it. It's heading off ice in Georgia, Florida, Texas got hit. The whole nation just seems like it's socked in, bundled into this Arctic plunge. And Dutchy, he's right in the thick of it as well. Trevor, he's been chiseling ice. He's in here as well. Rocket Man Salzman needs some of that rocket fuel to burn off that ice. How you doing tonight, Trevor?
Yeah, I think I'm about fueled out after today, chipping ice. But no, that's just kind of the usual in Colorado. So that's what we all have to do around this time of year. But it's great to be here, and hopefully everybody's staying warm around the globe tonight. As like you just mentioned, Keith, it's pretty cold in the U.S. right now.
Yeah, getting chilly out there, man. Bundle up, stay warm. Hopefully the electricity stays on, especially with all those ice storms coming through and the like. But we're going to jump into the posse, say hello to a few friends, say hello to Roy Osborne. He's saying, hey there, horseman, and the posse. Good old Ernie Mays jumping in here saying, go Broncos country only. Bo Nix for C6. Hello, Keith and Dutchy and Jody and Trevor. Good to see you, Mr. Ernie Mays. Man, another great name over there on the K&K Sports Show, rocking it out. Mr. Graham coming in here saying, good Tuesday to you three. Well, good Tuesday to you, Graham. It's very good to see you. And he's just checking in. I guess we're doing weather updates across the nation. 5 Fahrenheit over here in Winnipeg, across multiple continents, or same continent, multiple countries, sorry. Our good friend Michael Ronquillo coming in saying, good evening, Keith, Albert, Trevor, and Go Bo Broncos. My thought is, and I'll have to switch over on accounts, maybe some stars came with that because Michael's been taking care of us. Either way, Michael, good evening to you. Hope you're doing well. We appreciate you jumping in here and being a part of our show. It was -20 Fahrenheit earlier today, says Graham. Paul's like, dang, Graham. All right. Yeah, it's cold. Bundle up. Stay warm, everybody. So Roy was talking about this. This is a big comment. It's not all going to show. But Roy's going in there and he's been working with injured thumb. That being said, it sounds like he's given us all an update. Things are going well and healing to this point, and doing a little bit of reconstructive surgery. Our big thoughts, obviously, just go out to you, Roy. Like I said, the posse are all behind you as well, and hope you're doing okay, and we wish you the very best. So, Mr. Phil McLaughlin coming in here, dropping stars as well, saying, good evening, Keith, Rocket Man, and Dutchy. Do we keep Stidham, Troutman, Williams, and Locke? That is a heck of a list of names, a couple of which we're going to get to right now. Because as the teaser was, as the ad put out there saying what we need to do in this offseason, well, Sean Payton talked about it in his last presser. We need to take about 2.5 weeks. We need to sit back. We need to evaluate this roster. And in doing so, man, we have a list of free agents that are coming up on contracts. Just to start off, though, and I'm going to go around the horn to all of you all. Good evening, David. Good to see you all. Good to see you as well. And Michelle jumping in here. But Albert, since we got Michelle's comment right up there, I'll go to you first, man. We let a few names go, expiring contracts out the door. One Cam Fleming, one Donald Parham, and one David Sills. So we go offensive lineman, tackle, swing tackle, tight end, and wide receiver. Let them all go. I mean, there's always the possibility of them coming back, but no need to keep them around as far as this coaching staff thought. What are your thoughts on Cam Fleming, Donald Parham, David Sills?
Yeah, I would have kept Fleming around just as a backup. You can use him as a rotational piece. And he has been decent. And the other two, we have not heard much of it. So, yeah, I don't think it is that big of a deal if they leave. But, yeah, Fleming, yeah, he has been reliable at times. So I would have kept him or see if we can get him back for the cheap. And I think he's willing to do that.
Cam Fleming makes the list of possible bringbacks for Albert or maybe stick-arounds. Trevor, what are your thoughts on those three names?
I mean, those guys are not guys that I think this organization is worrying about right now. Good depth pieces, but I do not see the Broncos necessarily rushing to sign these guys back anytime soon. I mean, if they're back, then all the better. But you're looking to try to upgrade your roster as much as possible, and that includes adding more depth to your team. Donald Parham is one of those that's kind of interesting, 6'8" tight end that just sat on the practice squad all year and did not get used. I mean, it's just a little interesting that you went on your way to sign him, but just chose not to play him at all. I mean, it's when he's played, meaningful games for the Chargers in the past and is a big pass catching tight end. So, but yeah, I mean, these guys are just depth pieces at this point in time, and maybe towards training camp or after the draft and whatnot, because they're going to be busy with free agency and preparing for that. They're signing their own free agents, and obviously the draft. But after the draft, I think maybe you start seeing some of these depth pieces come back if they can't upgrade the depth, during free agency or whatnot this offseason.
Sure. Yeah. Biggie Broncos jumping in here. He's saying hello as well. How's everybody doing tonight? Just my quick thoughts on it. I guess similarly, David Sills started one game. Really never got to see much of him. He's out the door. But like you said, I think there are upgrades. I don't think they're in a rush to go out and maybe sign some of these guys. But when it comes to unrestricted free agents, I think I broke this all down my group. I think it would be a little bit easier. That being said, as far as us and as far as the posse, so right off the bat, man, we got quarterbacks that top the list. We have two backup quarterbacks. Trevor, I'm going to go to you. Zach Wilson, Jarrett Stidham. Last year, Zach Wilson, $2.7 million. Jarrett Stidham, $7 million on his contract last year. What are your thoughts on our backup quarterback situation? One, both? Are they here? Are they gone? What are your thoughts?
I think it depends on the market for Zach Wilson. Being where the quarterback market is this offseason, I could see him getting a little bit more of a pay bump than maybe the Broncos want to pay for a backup quarterback, because Bo is going to be the quarterback of the future regardless. So it's a completely different situation from when Zach Wilson became a Denver Bronco to where we're at this point in time right now. So, I could see an opportunity for Zach Wilson to possibly earn a starting job around the league at some point in time, or at least get a better opportunity than where he's going to be here in Denver. So I think Jarrett Stidham, though, is a guy that I look at and say, I think that there's a possibility, more of a possibility that he's back and you don't have to pay, a lot for him to come back. I'm not saying that Zach Wilson's going to get a ton of money. I'm not saying that at all, but I'm just saying that I could see more of an opportunity for Zach Wilson, being that he was a former first-round pick. Teams tend to love to believe in that a little bit more. So I think Stidham possibly come back. I think that's more reasonable. Zach Wilson, the reason why I said Zach Wilson could come back is how much does Sean Payton love Zach Wilson? Does he still love Zach Wilson the way he did when they acquired Zach Wilson? Completely different situation now. So I think it'll be interesting to see how they upgrade maybe their backup quarterback position. But I think right now, if I had to say, Jarrett Stidham has a better possibility coming back than Zach Wilson, just because you have your quarterback with Bo. Jarrett Stidham, he's been a pretty good backup quarterback when he's been in there. I mean, we seen that a little bit in the preseason. If you can upgrade the backup quarterback position, of course you want to do that. You're always looking to do that, but Zach Wilson isn't going to be the starting quarterback of this team anytime soon. So, being where the quarterback market is, I think another team could absolutely offer Zach Wilson more than what he possibly would get offered to come back to Denver and be Bo Nix's backup.
Very good, man. I might have different thoughts. Albert might have different thoughts. We have a ton of guys to get through, so just keep that in mind. We might have to start clicking through a few of these. But Albert, your thoughts, man? We got Jarrett Stidham. We have Zach Wilson. They've been backing up Bo Nix all year. Obviously, you have almost two guys at different ends of their career still, with Zach Wilson being fairly young and Jarrett Stidham now, 28 years old, if I remember correctly. So, your thoughts, man? Where do we go? Do we keep one? Do we keep both? Where we go? Where are we headed as far as backup quarterback?
Right now, from what I hear and what I understand, this is a really tight little quarterback group. They're working really well together, and I think they're bringing the best out of each other. And I would say, why do you break it up? Why do you break it up? Keep it as it is. They are getting used to each other. They can play off each other. And they know exactly what to expect from each other now. And Stidham and both Zach Wilson, they have their own little niche, but they're working really well together. I would keep them.
This is my thought. We have a lot of coaching opportunities out there happening. And one name that's been called upon is one Mr. Davis Webb. There's a possibility Davis Webb ends up in New Orleans. If Davis Webb ends up in New Orleans, I think he ends up taking one of these quarterbacks. If he ends up being the offensive coordinator in one of these positions, that being said, you'd probably want to take I would think he would take Jarrett Stidham. I think he would take Jarrett Stidham and run down there and try to get his offense off the ground with somebody who knows his offense. I think Zach Wilson is the one that stays, if anybody stays, because he still shows the most potential and upside down the road. I understand that we last year I was talking all about, hey, having somebody steady, having somebody as a rock. Jarrett Stidham's that rock. Bo Nix is that rock right now. And you hope you don't have to turn away from that. If you do, give yourself the most potential. Have Zach Wilson be that quarterback. That's my 2 cents on that one. So, guys, I'm going to jump right over to the next one. Let's say hello. I've been clicking through some of these comments as well, but Paul says clock is ticking on Stiddy being a starter. He will leave. Ernie's all about keeping Stiddy and getting something for Wilson, so send them both out the door. Can't really get much for Wilson since he's an unrestricted free agent. You really just have to let him walk unless you're going to re-sign him and then try to deal him at the trade deadline or something like that down the road. So a little stuck as far as that's concerned. Stidham is a free agent. No need to keep him. And my good friend Jeremy Dressler jumping in here and saying, "Sup, fellas, go Broncos." I'd say keep Wilson. So kind of back and forth on where we should maybe go. The Saints will vulture the guys from the Broncos? ? Maybe we've taken enough. They're about ready to try to return the favor. Jump over to running back and fullback right here. It's a couple of big ones. Albert, I'll start with you first. We'll go back around. Name that we've been talking about all year, a name that we really hoped would step up, and we'd be talking maybe a little bit differently about the offseason here for this particular gentleman. The one, Mr. Javonte Williams, is a free agent. Last year, he earned $2.8 million. And then I'll just lump them together. We can talk about them together. Fullback Michael Burton, who took home $437,000 last year. He's also an unrestricted free agent. What are your thoughts on those two in the backfield being here and not being here?
Yeah, Michael Burton, I would really like to see coming back. I think he has earned his money, and I think he will earn a little bit bonus as well. Javonte Williams was who I was really high on in the beginning of the season. I don't think he is it for this team. he is not going to make it. I think, keep Burton and let Javonte go, because Javonte can retire. He has some money there set aside, and he could retire if he wants to. But yeah, no, Javonte didn't do it for me this year, and I really had high hopes for him.
Yeah, I think I did too, man. Well, obviously we all did. We want to have that big running back who was a bruiser and competed and put up maybe 1,000 yards and really change this offense. But we didn't see it, Trevor. We didn't see it. Michael Burton didn't see as much of Michael Burton this year as well as what we've seen last year. What are your thoughts on Williams and Burton?
Yeah, I think Burton's back. That's a Sean Payton guy. That just typically, I mean, that's not the only reason he would bring him back, but they also just think they value Burton in this offense and they want to keep him around. I don't see why they would completely go away from him and go with a different fullback right now. I think you would be, if you're going to have that discussion about keeping Burton or not, I think you would just have that discussion of maybe Nate Atkins would be a guy that could possibly replace Michael Burton as a fullback and that kind of tight end mixture. Javonte, I think everybody knows that, kind of where I'm at with this running back room. You can't bring back Javonte right now. This running back room just was not very good, and you have to help out Bo Nix and give him a running game. And I just don't think Javonte can be relied upon to be that guy anymore. I think that going into the season, I think Sean Payton, there was an effort to, try to get Javonte to be that guy. I mean, he was still getting carries the last game of the season, that last game of the playoffs. I mean, against Buffalo, he led this team in carries in the running back room. So I think Sean Payton, tried to get what he could out of Javonte. Javonte just doesn't have it much anymore. And hope maybe in a different situation, a different team, he can be that guy for them or be more improved. But Denver has to invest in the running back position this year. That's my number one need for this team. In this offense. So I think they move forward and try to improve the running back room. Maybe it's one or two guys that they end up getting, but you have to improve this running back room going forward because this offense was not very efficient without a running game.
Yeah, it wasn't very efficient. Like I said, I was pulling for Javonte a ton, but we've been waiting, and you can only wait so long. You at least let him go out there and test the market. Maybe he comes back on a really good deal for you. I'm on the other side as far as Burton. As someone mentioned up here a little bit earlier, Nate Atkins is a guy that can play that position, and it seems like he has been playing that position quite a bit. We also got to remember that Michael Burton is a 32-year-old fullback. Getting up there in age at this point, I don't know how many more years he's really going to have in the NFL. It might be the year that we actually see Michael Burton get moved on from, with Nate Atkins kind of, again, filling that role for the majority of the year. I think that's the way that we're leading. I do have a question that came in from Phil McLaughlin. He was wondering, when it comes to these running backs, you guys think we draft and use free agency to pick up a couple of running backs? Really quickly, Dutchie, how do you think we address the running back room? Is it free agency? Is it draft? Is it one, the other, or both?
Yeah, if David Webb goes to the New Orleans Saints, we might see some trades. And Kamara might be coming to the Broncos, and they might steal some of the Bronco people.
Could see that, possibly. It seems like Kamara is very happy in New Orleans. Came back on that deal just this last year and got it inked up, which kind of surprised me after the games he was having at the time. But, got all secured in. I just don't see that. I don't see New Orleans necessarily moving on from that piece, but you never know. Free agency, that would be a big one right there. One Alvin Kamara. Trevor, what are your thoughts? Free agency in the NFL draft, how do you address this running back room?
Well, I think the Broncos absolutely should be looking at the draft. This is a great running back draft, and if you can find a young running back that is under team control and under that rookie contract, that's ideal to help Bo Nix in this offense going forward. So Kamara's a little expensive. Some of these other running backs are going to be expensive. Najee Harris, I'm interested in Najee Harris, but again, I mean, how much are you paying for Najee Harris? Because guess what? You still have to re-sign Zach Allen. You still have to re-sign Nick Benito. So as much as the Broncos have cap space right now, I mean, that cap space starts kind of going away when you're starting, trying to re-sign some guys. So I think they look at both, but I think they would be, I'd be a little surprised if the Broncos didn't attack the running back room in the draft, and it could possibly be in the first couple rounds.
Very good. Biggie Bronco talking about that Javonte injury. He's on board. He still thinks Javonte has a chance. He's saying it's a 2-year injury. The 3rd year is when the player actually gets back to form. Just look at Cortland Sutton as an example. So he's kind of pushing for Javonte and thinks that, he may still have that in the tank, may still have the ability. We'll have to see if that's played out here in Denver or someplace else. It always hurts when they go someplace else, and then, of course, they start going off. Answer your question really quickly, Phil, as well. I would go out and get a free agent if you have the ability to get a free agent running back. Me and Trevor talked a little bit after last episode. For me, the known versus the unknown, I'll take the known in this position. I think that's where we're at. I don't want to take a stab at something that doesn't end up quite working out. Go out there. If Najee Harris is your guy, if you like Najee Harris, he checks all the boxes for Sean Payton and the rest of the coaching staff. Go ahead and go out there and get a Najee Harris and pay for Najee Harris. I think it's worth it to go out there and try to find a guy like that. So, I'm going to keep moving down the list, guys. And like I said, we got a lot of names and a lot of positions to get through. We're just on position group number 3. But Little Jordan Humphrey and Lucas Kroll, another couple of free agents. Now, 2 different types. Little Jordan Humphrey, that unrestricted free agent, he just hits the open market. Lucas Kroll is a restricted free agent where we get an exclusive rights free agent. An exclusive rights free agent. So we have the ability to go out there and sign him right now if we want to, and get the opportunity of anybody makes an offer that we can go out there and we can match it. So I'll go to you, Dutchie, first. Little Jordan Humphrey, Lucas Kroll. What are your thoughts on these 2 gentlemen?
Yeah, we have not seen much of them. Little Jordan Humphries had a couple good things, but he also had very negative moments. And the same with Kroll. We haven't hardly seen anything. We need a tight end that can do it all, and that is the thing that we are lacking. And we need to draft one of those in the upcoming draft, because right now the wide receivers, if we can get a T. Higgins as for a wide receiver, then Humphrey is definitely not on the roster anymore. But we need something better on those 2 positions.
Trevor, your thoughts on here, man? Wide receiver, tight end, those are positions that we'd like to see maybe upgrades as well. But here's a couple of guys that are free agents. Do we bring them back? Do we continue to develop, or is it time to move on?
Lucas Kroll is. I don't know why you'd bring him back right at this point in time. You're trying to upgrade that tight end room, and I'm kind of over the whole Lucas Kroll experiment and what he could possibly be. I mean, he's undrafted for a reason. Again, all due respect to Lucas Kroll, he just never panned out, and they didn't really use him a ton. So I'm out on Lucas Kroll. Little Jordan Humphrey. Again, it's one of those. He's a depth signing. If he's still there, after the draft, and as you get closer to training camp and whatnot, and mini camps, then okay. I mean, you could possibly look at that because of his connection with Sean Payton. I think there always will be that possibility with some of these guys, Burton's, the Little Jordan Humphreys of the world, because of the connection with Sean Payton. He's comfortable with those guys. He knows what those guys can do. So I wouldn't rule out Little Jordan Humphrey it's got to be the right deal though for this team. Ideally, you want to upgrade that wide receiver room. You don't want to have to rely upon Little Jordan Humphrey being in this wide receiver room. So if they can find a way to upgrade the wide receiver room, then I don't think he's back. But if they can't, then you may see him back because of that connection back with Peyton.
I think it's more than a connection. If you're looking for a wide receiver that can go out there and block in a Sean Payton offense, try to find me one. You got Cortland Sutton, and that's about it. You can't – Devon Vele, not a good blocker. Marvin Mims isn't going to get you blocking. Troy Franklin, not going to be blocking. This is like literally the only guy that gets out there and blocks down the field. Little Jordan Humphreys, as far as I'm concerned, on his $875,000 salary that he earned last year, he's coming back. And I wouldn't be surprised if Lucas Kroll comes back. He didn't even cost $1 million. He's only 26 years old. And I know this room has a lot of room for development, but he's 26 years old. There's room for development for a guy that's this big. You already let Donald Parham out the door. So you're already looking at a fairly thin room, and it's not going to cost you that much. So I wouldn't say that Lucas Kroll is a lock, but I would say that Lil Jordan Humphreys, I think, is going to be coming back.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you with the blocking with Lil Jordan Humphrey. That's what I'm saying. If they can't find another blocking wide receiver, a guy who can block and still pass catch, then I think Lil Jordan Humphrey does come back. It makes sense with the salary that he's making. Lucas Kroll, though, I mean, talk about a guy who just struggles blocking, and you have Adam Troutman still on this roster as of right now. So I think you have to look at upgrading that tight end room, and if they can, they can do that, which I think they can. They'll have the flexibility to do that in free agency and in the draft. And maybe you double up in the draft. Maybe you do sign a veteran free agent and you get a guy in the draft. So, Lil Jordan Humphrey, I think that there's a decent chance he comes back, regardless, because of the depth and what he has with Sean Payton and his ability to block. It's not easy to find a wide receiver that can block.
Yeah, and I just want a little bit of context before we even move on to the next one. First off, I just wanted to say, Davey Youngkin, welcome. Good to see you in here. And he was the one who's saying that Sean likes Little Jordan Humphreys. We have $50 million to spend right now. If you go out and spend $10 million a year on 5 free agents, you're done. You're going to get maybe your first 2 to 3 picks in the draft to go out there and actually start playing with it. You don't have that much money and that many positions. Plus, when we're talking about free agency and the draft for that matter, you're competing. It's nice to want T. Higgins for some, but you're not the only team thinking that T. Higgins might be a good addition to your team. So you're out there competing with all the Najee Harris, whoever it happens to be. It's nice to say, hey, just go get that guy. Go get that guy for how much? How much are you willing to pay to make sure you have it locked in? Well, now we're talking more than $10 million for guys like T. Higgins and Najee Harris. Hate to tell you. So your pool starts shrinking, and the amount of players you can add that are going to be playmakers start going down. I mean, yeah, you want to hit on those 4th, 5th, 6th round guys. Yeah, get them in here, and all of a sudden they hit and they're a starter for you. Fantastic. We'll take it. But you can't guarantee it. And those free agents, sometimes you can't even guarantee. But man, oh man, there's that money will start drawing up pretty dang quick if you go out there and you want to make sure you can address all these guys just in free agency. Offensive line, we're going to hit this, and then we'll hit into our little sponsorship here. Lots of comments coming in, and I'm trying to get into all of them. Maybe I'll hit this one real quick. Matt Staffiero, wide receiver Tyler Lockett, if he becomes available, is the name I keep my eye on. I don't think they'll be big spenders. I think they will focus on the draft for bigger splashes. Tyler Warren, Amiki Ekeba had the list for me. So, and I probably murdered that name, but that's okay. I'm still getting into it. Offensive line, guys, just really quick. Matt Pert, Quinn Bailey, and Mitchell Faboni, long snapper. I put him in here on the offensive line since he kind of resides there. Trevor, I'll start with you, man. Matt Pert came in and spelled a little bit. Quinn Bailey, we didn't obviously see a whole lot. And Faboni Mitchell, he's been our resident guy there now for a few years there at long snapper. What are your thoughts on this list? Restricted free agent for a Faboni.
Yeah, I think Faboni's probably he's probably back, I would say. Unless there's somebody they can get to get it for cheaper. But again, it's not like there's a ton of money that you're going to have to pay him. Quinn Bailey, I do think Quinn Bailey's back too, because guess what? A year ago, they had big plans for Quinn Bailey. I mean, he was that swing guy on the offensive line, adds more depth to this team, and them having big plans for him. I think he's back. I mean, he was there for a while. He was an important loss for them, and being that he's the depth on this team. I mean, if somebody goes out, it's Quinn Bailey was the guy to back up and be there. So I think Quinn Bailey is back because it's not going to cost you a ton. I mean, he missed a whole year. I mean, it's like talking about hundreds of maybe 100,000 or something, hundreds of thousands, maybe a little under $1 million, I would say. It's not going to cost a ton to bring him back. And so I think they like Quinn Bailey, and I see Quinn Bailey back as well.
Quinn Bailey was a $1.05 million is what we ended
Yeah.
up paying him last year. So basically $1 million. Can't imagine it's going to go up or down all that much. Call it another $1 million to bring Quinn Bailey back in the door. Also, Matt Peart, like we said, we've seen him, especially in some jumbo packages. And then we were talking about Faboni as well. Albert, what are your thoughts on these three gentlemen?
Yeah, just get them all free back. They were not bad, and as rotational plays, and for Boni, yeah, you need a long snapper, and you know what you have in him,
Mm-hmm.
and what you said already, what you know or what you might guess. Fraboni is not bad, so keep him.
Yeah, I'd say better than not bad. Anytime you never, ever, ever talk about the guy, that's exactly what you want. I mean, back there, it was never, hey, no block field goal is because the ball came stumbling, rumbling, off the turf back to the the holder. It was right there every single time. So I think you stick with a guy like that. Also, did well blocking up front. When the block kick came through, it wasn't through the middle of the line. It was, of course, it never typically is around the long snapper these days, just with all the protection they do have. Wanted to get to David Youngkin before we got too far away from the offense. We'll be flipping over to the defensive side of the ball after the break. But David Youngkin was wondering if we would get the wide receiver from the Bucs, Chris Godwin. Trevor, I'll go to you first on this. What are your thoughts on Chris Godwin as another potential weapon to bring to Bo Nix in this offense?
Yeah, I mean, out of all the kind of top names, and if you're talking, between T. Higgins and Chris Godwin, I think Chris Godwin would be a guy that I would be more in favor of. He's not going to cost nowhere near as much as T. Higgins. For the most part, he's reliable. I know he had that big injury this last year, but he was a pretty critical part of that Bucs offense. And who knows? There's no guarantee they're going to let him hit the free agent market. He was a pretty big part of that team alongside Mike Evans. So yeah, I mean, I would definitely consider it. I think you have to consider a talent like that if he ever hit the open market to try to bring him in on the other side of Cortland Sutton. But it just depending on the price and what he's going to ask for. But it's not going to be a ton, anywhere close to what a T. Higgins would make, and probably shorter years and whatnot. So, Chris Godwin I would definitely consider. Not sure they go the veteran wide receiver route. I think they may go more the draft route if they're going to try to bring in, some wide receivers. I don't think they're going to spend a ton of money. I just say with the wide receiver on the wide receiver market, on the open market, because they still also, and we could see a Cortland Sutton kind of contract dispute once again, because again, those guarantees are off the books now. So we may see something with that as well. So that also plays a factor in to what they possibly could do on the open market.
That's fair too, man. That's fair too. I'll pose this to you as well, Dutchie. Chris Godwin hasn't been the healthiest wide receiver. Big E Broncos thinks that's just too much for him. What are your thoughts on Chris Godwin? Does injuries take a factor into your thinking here?
Not anymore, because we have seen Broncos was one of the most hurt teams 2 seasons ago, and now they were the second best of non-injuries. So there's a change in medical staff over there. The Broncos have been so much better with injuries. We pretty much had only one major injury, and that was Singleton. And so, yeah, the injuries, I think it has to do with the staff that is supporting them, and I think that those injuries will be out of the question. That is my understanding, and that is my belief, because we are much, much better than where we were 2 years ago. Yeah, we need a number one wide receiver. In most teams, Cortland Sutton would be a number 2 receiver. If you look at the top 10 teams, he would be a number 2. So we need something that is as good as him or better, because that opens up so much more for everybody else. Because now you have to block more than one wide receiver, and I think that should help tremendously.
Yeah, if I had to guess, I would say low spending on a wide receiver. I know no one wants to hear low spending on a wide receiver in free agency. I think they add some veteran depth, some veteran presence to this team to maybe go along, or who knows, like Trevor said, we still have to figure out exactly what's going on with Sutton. Maybe he's added to, maybe he replaces one Cortland Sutton for all we know. But you do have Marvin Mims. You do have Troy Franklin. You do have guys that you think you might want to continue to see and develop. Maybe Devon Vele. I don't know. I gotta say the posse is a little mixed on one Devon Vele as far as that is concerned. Mr. Kenny Kirkpatrick of the amazing K&K Sports Show, he comes in here, says, keep an eye out for Garrett Wilson, everyone. I think he could be a realistic trade target with the Jets situation. He also came in, excuse me, pardon me, everybody. Didn't mean to digest here. He came in early and he was super, super cool and super nice. And I was going to see if I could get that comment, but you guys have been rocking these comments so dang hard. This is the one. He said, good evening, everyone. Tuesday night, 15 degrees out means two things. One, watch the best Broncos podcast on earth, DBR. And two, make some vanilla macadamia nut lion coffee. Let's go. And yeah. Music to my ears. It's been a little bit of a coffee week with the cold temperatures, so I definitely get that. All right, before we jump over into the defense, like I said, we need to jump in and tell you all about our fantastic sponsor, and that's Morgan Trinkets. Morgan Trinkets has over 34 years experience selling you Southwest jewelry, Southwest pottery, and estate gold at wholesale prices. Once a nationwide company, now they're just in your backyard, northern Colorado, southern Wyoming, and they're rocking out shows left, right, and otherwise, gem shows, fairs, you name it. If you can't get out to one of those amazing shows, just head on over to Etsy, type in Morgan Trinkets Co. That's Morgan Trinkets Co. And check out everything that Morgan Trinkets has to offer. Amazing pieces. And whether it's that Southwest jewelry, Southwest pottery, or estate gold, or you're looking for silver, 100% sterling silver, they offer that as well, all over on Etsy. All major credit cards are taken, and any order over $50 is shipped absolutely free. Check out Morgan Trinkets. That's Morgan Trinkets. That's Morgan Trinkets Co. on Etsy. Morgan Trinkets Co. Check them out today. Show this weekend on Saturday at Longmont's Fairgrounds. There you go. So if you happen to be in Longmont, Colorado, out at the fairgrounds, need to swing by, say hello to Pearl, and amazing treats and treasures that she has over with Morgan Trinkets. So, all right. Like I said, a lot of questions, by the way. I see a lot of the comments, and a lot of comments of, hey, what about we go after these free agents or those free agents? This could be a 3-hour episode if we get into all the free agents that we could go after, as well as the ones that we might be saying goodbye to. That being said, we're going to go through our free agent list. Episodes in the future are definitely going to be about those possibilities of free agents coming in. We'll be tackling those. So I appreciate everyone jumping in here. I'll just try to get through this episode and then hang with us. Come back for those next episodes, and we'll be talking more free agency. Like I said, flipping over to the defensive side, big names right off the bat. Trevor, I'll start with you on this one. I can't remember where we left off, and then I'll flip over to Alvaro on the next set. A couple of names on the interior defensive line, DJ Jones and Jordan Jackson. Two names that kind of are on different ends of the spectrum as far as their wages and their experience and how much maybe playing time they got for the Denver Broncos. That being said, both free agents out there, and we have some decisions to be made. What are your thoughts on these two gentlemen?
Yeah, I like Jordan Jackson a lot for the Broncos. Bringing him back, he was a guy that ended up making this team, after the preseason. So, and ended up making this roster, 53-man roster. So I really like what Jordan Jackson brings. I think the depth's definitely there for him. DJ Jones, I think he had a good season, but I think you can possibly upgrade over him. And I think that you need to get more size. I mean, one thing that the Buffalo game kind of maybe hinted at a little bit was you inability to stop the run at times against these running backs. James Cook had 120 yards against this Broncos defensive line, just not being able to stop the run game at all. I mean, then you had Derrick Henry at times this year, Jonathan Taylor. I mean, just these really good running backs. In the playoffs, you're going to play those kind of guys. So you're going to have to upgrade the defensive line as much as you can. So I would definitely, look to upgrade. And DJ Jones, the right price, maybe you bring him back, but I think you always need to look at and evaluate, can you get younger there and get more size there? I think if you can do that, I think move off of DJ Jones, because I think that there can be upgraded on your defensive line. And you look at these teams that are in the playoffs. I mean, Chris Jones, the Jalen Carters of the world, those guys are on those playoff caliber teams. And so that's what the Broncos should be looking at, is continuing to reinvest in that defensive line. Other than Zach Allen, long term, there's another piece long term on the defensive line right now? Not really. So something they need to look at this offseason. It doesn't get quite talked about because of the other needs, but I want them to try to improve the defensive line and to see if they can get more size up front.
Okay, before I go off of what Trevor and head on over to Albert on this one, I do want to address this real quick, because Pearl brought it up, you brought it up as well. At the right price, DJ Jones at the right price. $10 million average salary. Actually, last year he clocked in at basically $13 million as his earnings. What's the right price for DJ Jones? I ask you, I ask the posse as well.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, was it me or was it Albert?
You, and then I'll jump over to Albert. I wanted you to finish because you had brought it up, the price.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. I mean, for me, 10 million, I think you can try to find an upgrade there. And I think part of that is where does this Broncos, where does Peyton and Sean Payton, George Payton, Sean Payton in the front office think about the draft as far as interior defensive linemen? Because in this draft, there is some depth there. And so, can you sign somebody for cheaper? I'm not sure, at $10 million a year. Because I remember last year talking about DJ Jones being a cut candidate the longest time. And, we winded in, forward into the 1 year into forward. And I mean, he's a free agent. So, I mean, right price, it's going to have to be under $10 million for me. He's also I believe, going to be 30 years old going into next year. So, getting a little bit older. You have Malcolm Roach. Malcolm Roach kind of took over for DJ Jones this year. I think he was even better at a little bit more of a discount. So, for me, $10 million is a little too much for DJ Jones, but I think you have to look at trying to get younger and trying to improve on that defensive line and keep, want to stay ahead of these other teams and try to reinvest into your defensive line and offensive line go forward.
Yeah. Dutchy, I'll ask for a quick response on this one so I can have you go for a long one on our next category. How's that? DJ Jones, Jordan Jackson, what are your thoughts on these two guys?
DJ Jones, let him test the free market. And if he doesn't get an offer, then you probably can bring him back for the cheap. You have Uwazurika, you have Jackson. You can get away with those because they're similar. And then, you can look on the free agency or go to a draft.
Very good. I'll flip right over. Thanks for being all short for me. It's very, very concise. Loved it. I'll let you just run with some names here, man, because this is another one, another big group right here. Edge and linebackers, I put all in one group. It's only 4 names, but it's quite a few names that I think we want to talk about. Cody Barton, Justin Sternad, DeAndre Tillman, and Zach Cunningham are the 4 names that we bring up into this. Albert, I'll let you go wherever you want. Cody Barton, Justin Sternad, DeAndre Tillman, Zach Cunningham. Start wherever you like, buddy.
So, Sternad, no, I don't want him anymore. I was a big fan of him in the beginning, but he just doesn't cut it. Tillman, let him stay because he had really good moments, and he needs to grow in his role. Burton, keep him because he was pretty good. Barton, yeah, keep him because he was pretty good at moments. Yeah, and then Cunningham, keep him because you can keep him cheap. Sternad, let Sternad go because it didn't do it for me.
Tillman stays, says David Youngkin. Roy's on board with moving Barton and Sternad. Paul saying re-sign Barton and draft his brother. So, Trevor, what are your thoughts? Like I said, a lot of names there, or 4 names, a lot of maybe to keep track of in your mind, but a lot of, I guess you could really be emptying the cabinet a little bit when it comes to the inside linebacker position, depending upon what you do here.
Yeah, I mean, DeAndre Tillman, I think you got to bring him back. He was really good. Had a lot of really great moments for this team. 5 sacks and 12 pressures this year. Nice depth on that edge rushing room. Cody Barton, I mean, I think you have to try to upgrade that inside linebacker room. I mean, that's another position where I think this team has to invest, and I wonder if they're going to invest in that in free agency. Cody Barton, Justin Sternad, they just, they didn't cut it. I mean, you could tell by the different free agents that Denver was, having to bring in. They had to bring in Zach Cunningham, Kwan Alexander, guys like that to replace or try to help that inside linebacker room throughout the season. That's a tough thing to do. So for me, I think they got to just try to, maybe clean house a little bit when it comes to that inside linebacker room. And you still have Alex Singleton. Don't know what they're going to do with Alex Singleton yet either. Are you going to cut him, or is he going to restructure? Are you going to bring him back on the current deal he's on? So there's a lot of questions at this time of year because we don't even know who's going to be free agents yet and who might get cut. So, right now I would just say move off those guys. And then if things don't turn out the right way and you don't bring in the guys that you originally targeted, because all these teams around the league, they don't always get the targets that they, the players they end up targeting. So if those guys are still available down the line, maybe Cody Barton, I could see them possibly bringing them back. And depends on who's your special teams coordinator with Justin Sternat. So there's so many questions, but keep it short. No, I think they need to reset that inside linebacker room and bring in a couple of new players.
Very good. I'm going to go halvesies on this. I'm going to say we bring back 2 and let 2 go. DeAndre Tillman makes the list, just like both of you guys said. But the other one that makes my list is going to be Justin Sternat. Not Justin Sternat, the inside linebacker. Justin Sternat, the special teamer that played so well last year and the year before. This year he had to step up into the role, and he wasn't on special teams, so we didn't get to see him over there. But I think you can keep Justin Sternat around for the special teams help and not necessarily for that inside linebacker, but obviously can play that role if need be on your team. Zach Cunningham, as much as I'd like to think about a one-time Pro Bowler, making something again here in Denver, I don't know if Zach Cunningham's going to get the cut. And Cody Barton, like you said, I think there's upgrades available. We brought him in last year. He played well enough, but not well enough. Yeah. So I think we can make upgrades there. Whether it be a Zach Braun, or I see that Zach Bond, I'm sorry, from the Eagles, or someone else. Braun, I believe it is, but I'm wrong. That being said, like I said, I think we have upgrades available across the board. I'll go back around the corner. We only have 2, well, really only 1 left, and then a little bit. 1 extra, I guess you could say. We can get into some more conversation after that, gentlemen, if we have any more time. I'll start with you, Mr. Albert, I think it was on this one, wasn't it? No, I started with Albert on the last one. I just realized. So I'll start with Trevor. Cornerback / safety. Only 3 names on this on the free agent list right now. We have Tremon Smith, we have Jaquan McMillan, we have Devon Key. Those are the 3 names, buddy. Any of these guys make it over to the 25-26 roster? All 3? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Jaquan McMillan, I think, is back. I think that, the amount of depth at corner you have is right now is another need for this team, by the way, is they need more cornerback depth, whether that's in free agency or the draft. You're one Riley Moss injury away from that being a concern again. So Jaquan McMillan, I think he played well enough in the slot this year. Again, if you can upgrade over him, of course, you would do it. But I think he was pretty solid for most of the season this year. Devon Key, depending on the depth that you're able to bring in, I don't think that, and depending on the coaching staff, do they think that he could possibly be a starter for this team? I don't think they're going to rely upon that, but maybe depth wise, they bring him back. And who was the other guy?
Tremon Smith, Jaquan McMillan, Devon Key. Yeah.
Tremon Smith. Yeah. Tremon Smith. He's a really good gunner. That's the thing. I really like what Tremon Smith is doing on special teams. I think he's back for sure. I think the amount of price you were able to get for him. Now, it could be interesting if you end up, completely getting a different special teams coordinator. But if you end up staying in-house with Chris Banjo, then I think there's a great chance that Tremon Smith's back. But I would certainly keep him for the price that he's going to cost. He's not going to be too expensive.
Tremon Smith, believe it or not, do you know what he made last year?
$3 million.
3.2 million. 3.2 million for, now granted, grand scheme of things, cornerback, not a whole lot of money for a cornerback. Certainly plays that gunner role and even does some returning as well, sitting back there if there's a return even available in the NFL anymore. But does bring a little bit more value than what we may really think about a Tremont Smith. Tremont Smith, Jaquan McMillan, Devon Key, Albert Dutchy. What are you thinking?
So we are talking about cornerbacks. I would bring back Trayvon McMillan as a cornerback. Absolutely. Trayvon Smith.
Jaquan McMillan. Okay.
Yeah, Trayvon Smith, I would bring back for special teams.
Okay.
And I would do the same thing with Stronard, bring him back for special teams, but not as an inside linebacker.
Okay.
So because we're talking about specific Key, yeah, you didn't hear much from him, and when you heard something from him, it was not. Most of the time, it wasn't good. So Key would not be on my list at all.
Very good. Devon Key, another special teamer, really, but that was really where you're seeing him the most. I think he got one start back at safety for us. Didn't necessarily impress, but I would say, just picking out of this list, guys, Jaquan McMillan. Jaquan McMillan is the guy that we need to get into a long-term contract, in my opinion. This is a guy that we can go ahead and we can invest, not long-term, but like 3-year contract. Go ahead and get him taken care of and locked up. This is a guy that last year made less than $1 million for what he put on the field. I think he's worth well that, and if not quite a bit more. And we should be able to pay him. And I mean, this is a guy that, he played the nickel corner probably as good as anybody, especially with the linebacker play that we had. I mean, he was not put in a very good position with our linebacker play, sometimes getting lined up against guys like Drake London in Atlanta. So, I mean, this is a guy that I put an asterisk next to his name because that was the one guy I thought of all these guys. Not only do we need to bring him back, but I think we need to go ahead and we need to ink him up for a few more years. I think he's that good in what he does. One last one. I guess this one starts with Albert Mile High Dutchy. Albert, do we bring back Riley Dixon, punter?
Yeah, I would bring him back. He had a couple missed punts, but is that because of instruction what he needed to do? But in general, he has been pretty good. So I would bring him definitely back because you know what he can be. Yeah, absolutely.
Very good. Answering questions here. He is an exclusive rights free agent, one Jaquan McMillan. So yeah, we have the ability to get him taken care of one way or another. Trevor, Riley Dixon. Is he the reason that our coach got let go? No, I'm just kidding. Riley Dixon, do we bring him back or not?
Yeah, I mean, it's like I just said, like with Tremont Smith, it's with your special teams coordinator kind of position up for grabs right now. It's hard to kind of get a key idea of what they're going to do. I think they'll bring Dixon back, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a new punter, just because certain special teams coaches and whatnot, they like to have their own guys and whatnot. So I wouldn't be surprised if they went a different direction at punter. But I would bring Dixon back. I think he was fine this year for them, and I think he's fine for what you end up paying for him, and you don't want to have too much turnover there on special teams if it's not too broke.
Yeah, the one thing I would say is I think that we're going to bring in some competition. I mean, you see it a lot with kickers and punters and stuff like that, but we did it last year, if I remember correctly. We brought in competition. Everyone's like, "Oh, why are we bringing in competition?" Well, Riley Dixon ended up winning out. It was all good, but I think there's another time that we might be able to, again, bring him in some competition pearls. Or I'm sorry, Paul's coming in and saying Dixon's can be our third string QB. Okay, did pretty good in the playoff game. Gentlemen, we just have a few more minutes. I want to hit Kenny's question, and this might help round us out. Who do you guys want back the most out of free agency, and who do you not want back, no matter how cheap they may be? We just went through this list. Albert, I want to give this one to you first. Who do you want back at almost any cost, and who do you not want back at all?
Who do I not want back at all? I think Pookie. He doesn't do it for me. He doesn't see the gaps, and once the gap has to be about a mile wide when he goes through it, he doesn't see it. Yeah, after his injury, Pookie is not the same anymore. I had hopes for him and in the beginning of the year, and I hope that Singleton comes back because Singleton was missed, and I would like to see him come back.
Not a free agent, but obviously a guy that could end up being on the chopping block. So kind of fits that same mold. I get that quite a bit. Trevor, what are your thoughts, man? Who do you want back at all costs, and who are you willing to just let walk right out the door?
Yeah, I don't think there's any free agent on this list right now that I would want back at all costs. I would say if a few are back, then I would be fine with that. But I mean, you have to look to improve this roster going forward. I mean, a lot of these guys we have to remember they were here. When Denver was going through their tough cap situation after releasing Russell Wilson, so they're going to have more flexibility. You expect them to improve. The guy I don't want back, I agree with Dutchie, is Javonte. Again, I love Javonte and hope that if he goes somewhere else, he improves and he continues to, make a name for himself. But in Denver, it just cannot work anymore. You have to have a running game to help out Bo. I mean, Bo Nix has so much on his plate this year, going into year 2 and expecting that from him once again. That just can't happen. You have to have a run game, and you have to be able to overhaul this running back room. Besides Estime, probably maybe McLaughlin's back, but you have to bring in some new running backs and try to get this run game back on track.
Yeah. I had to be in agreement with you guys. I hate to be like, boy, I don't want this guy back no matter what, because I'd have him come back at the right price. And maybe if some of our friends in the chat are right, maybe Pookie can gain a second life after a couple of years with his injury. But Pookie's got to be the guy that I'm not striving to try to get back in the door. Certainly don't want to overpay in any capacity to try to get him in the door. And then I guess I let my cat out the bag. Jaquan McMillan would be the guy that I'd want to ink up to a long-term contract. And make sure that we got him locked up of anybody on this list. That's the guy I think that shows the most value to this team. And even if he ends up being a death piece, I don't think you're signing him to a huge contract. And that being said, he can be that backup piece if down the road, we upgrade that position. So, David's in here. He's getting a big question. He's been asking a lot about this. What are your guys' thoughts on Alex Forsyth? Luke Wattenberg was that guy that took over the position. We all thought that Forsyth might have a run there. Not a free agent or anything like that. But what are your thoughts on Alex Forsyth? Albert, I'll go to you first on this one, then we'll end up wrapping up out of here.
Yeah, I'm still a fan of Forsyth. I know he can do it, and don't blame the special teams coach being fired because of Forsyth. No, it is the special teams coordinator's own fault putting Forsyth in the position and not adjusting, because it happened multiple games in a row. So it is the special teams coordinator's fault, not Forsyth's. Forsyth just did what he was supposed to do, and it didn't work. But yeah, I would like to see him come back unless they can major upgrade for Forsyth. But that also would mean an upgrade maybe on Wattenberg, because they are close together.
Very good. Trevor, your analysis of Forsyth, Wattenberg, the center position.
Yeah, I think Wattenberg played good enough. There's other positions of need for this team this year on both sides of the ball. I don't think center's that high up there, honestly, unless the best player available ends up falling for them. But I think Wattenberg's probably your center going into next year. Forsyth, I think he's nice depth. I mean, he'll probably be a guy that's going to end up having to work his way to on this roster again next year. I think that depending on the depth they end up bringing in, he's not going to be guaranteed no roster spot by no means, obviously. So I think that he'll be a guy that back, but having to work his way back onto the roster and earn his spot is where I see Alex Forsyth as of right now.
Yeah, and I would have to agree. Wattenberg basically getting 15 good solid starts, I would say, at least this year. They may be similar, but now you got 15 games and snaps. on the field with your with your cohorts, with your guys you go to battle with every single Sunday. That being said, I don't know if Alex Forsyth has a spot. Like you said, there's a lot of places we need to upgrade. Probably makes it like 90 man, 53 man, 90 man, I'm sorry, and maybe a practice squad type of guy, but got a long haul to get back all the way back up onto the field, and anybody that they bring in is instantly competition. So David Youngkin coming around and saying our defense is a great concern and our offense needs help. We're going to be looking to do all that, man. We just went through this free agent list of Denver Broncos players, a lot of which we could definitely end up upgrading from based upon our draft picks and the amount of cap space we have to spend. And, it's not a big list of big contracts. If you look outside of DJ Jones, who brought in the big one, Cody Barton, 2.5, Traymon Smith, 3.2, Javonte Williams, 2.8. I mean, these are not big contracts. So I think all of these guys honestly have an opportunity to actually come back because of how cheap they are, and how big the roster can get. That being said, I can't believe it. It's an hour already. Like I said, we'd have to get clipping right along in order to get through all these names. Michael Ronquillo's coming in here, showing us a lot of love and saying, great show tonight, Keith, Albert, Trevor, and go Bo Broncos. Just one way that we're getting out of here and kind of signing off, but I got to get some final thoughts from everybody. Albert, why don't I start with you, sir?
Yeah, the Broncos have a really nice future ahead of them. I think we are really starting to compete with the AFC West, and I think we could give the Chiefs a run for their title next year. Yeah, it is very, very good to be a Broncos fan now. The future is bright, but it is also really good to be part of this Denver Bronco Roundup group, because our future is bright as well, because we are doing great. We have an excellent team, and our posse is tremendous. So I want to. Graham won the coldest temperature with -20 today.
Mm-hmm.
We had Paul, Roy, -15 there. Ernie with a balming 59. Scott, Graham, Michael, Richie Rich from Canada was just cold, he said. Then we have Phil, Michelle, David McElrath. We had 3 Daves in here today.
Mm-hmm.
Biggie Bronco, -3. Kenny, 15. I'm not sure if that was positive or negative. Pearl, Jeremy, David Youngkin, Matt, Jody, Clayton, with a -19, and David Glassman. Guys, so much fun to have you here. And then David says 45 in Florida. It is fun to have you here because we see people from all over the states and out of the states as well. So we're growing, and we're looking forward to get to 10,000 subscribers.
Why not?
By the end of the year? That would be wonderful. Keep it up, guys. We love you.
Yeah. And before we get out of here, we've seen stars from Michael Ronquillo. We've seen stars from Phil McLaughlin, but I did miss one. I just want to get maybe your thoughts on this, Trevor, and then your final thoughts as we get out of here. If you don't mind answering Phil's star question, he says, as we can tell by this conversation, we need a lot. So do we trade back to get more picks in this draft? I mean, we went from free agency for the Broncos to possibly bringing in more free agents. Now we're all the way to the draft. But Phil needs to know, man. Phil needs to know, is this the type of draft that we, try to pile up a little bit and try to trade back, get more stabs at that, at winning players, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I mean, it's so early to answer this, but hey, the thing is, everything's on the table. Trading up, trading back, staying put. I mean, this all depends on who's there. And all these organizations, all these teams, they have their board set and they're all different. That's the thing. And that's when you say best player available. Well, that best player available might be different on somebody else's board. So, yeah, I think that's on the table. Absolutely. Possibly trading back and getting more picks, because this is a deep draft class, deep running back class, a deep tight end class. You need multiple positions. You have multiple holes to fill. I do expect them to fill some of those in free agency, so that might impact what they do in the draft. But yeah, everything's on the table for this front office, for the team, as it should be. And we'll learn more and get a better idea heading up to the draft on what they possibly could do. But as of right now, yeah, everything's on the table for the Broncos.
I'll give my just quick 2 cents on it. I would have to, I guess, somewhat agree, and mainly because of the position that we're in. You start getting a little bit further down in the draft, and that's the opportunity where you can start trading around and drop back just a few spots, and and still stay in the running for the players that you want. I think there's certainly a possibility this year. This might be one of the years we actually see that. We've been talking about it for a few. So, Trevor, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and remember last year at the draft, they wanted to trade back, but they didn't. They were afraid a team was going to jump in front of them to get Bo Nix. That was on the table for them last year. I'd expect that depending on who's on the board, that would be on the table for them again this year. But I also want to explain something real quick to Keith: the exclusive rights free agents, what that means for Jaquan McMillan and those guys that are exclusive rights free agents for the Broncos. So pretty much, I mean, if the Broncos tender them, then they can only sign with the Broncos. So Jaquan McMillan, if he gets tendered, he can only sign with the Broncos. Correct. Exclusive rights free agent. So I just kind of wanted to clear that up for everybody out there as well. So, but appreciate everybody joining in this conversation and just being amazing. You guys, honestly, again, I say it every show. We do this for you. We love you guys, and just continue to support us. We're going to continue to do these lists and have free agent options and drafts and whatnot, mock drafts throughout the year, throughout the offseason. So we love having everybody here and just keep continuing to grow. So appreciate everybody, and hopefully everybody stays warm out there. There's a lot of different scenarios we discussed tonight. Anything can happen. So and more than likely things will change, continue to going forward. We don't even know who exactly is going to be free agents yet. But appreciate everybody, and hope everybody has a great week. Stay warm out there, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, thank you all. It's been a fantastic episode. We had great star givers like Phil and Michael Ronquillo coming in here and dropping. I wasn't able to keep track. Those are two that I knew right off the top. We do go live every Tuesday, every Friday, 7:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, Facebook, YouTube. Search us out. Like, share, subscribe. That way you never have to. And our amazing sponsor, Morgan Trinkets. Check out Morgan Trinkets. If you're Estate Gold, wholesale prices, Southwest Jewelry, Southwest Pottery, Sterling Silver. Again, just need to check those. If any of those interest you, you got to check them out. 34 years experience. They know what they're doing. Check them out at the Longmont Fair grounds this Saturday. So as always, man, it's been a fantastic episode. It was a lot to get through. I was trying to press, and I apologize. I'm usually like all upbeat and like running around and have all this excitement. And it seemed like I was just getting through a lot of data tonight, everyone. So hopefully it was informative. Hopefully we got you through what the Denver Broncos have in front of them and the list of free agents that could be, a part of this team moving forward, or maybe we'll see a few of these faces move on. Either way, we're going to be with you every step of the way through this offseason, man. Free agency, draft, you name it. I was just looking at all the dates. It's chock full year, and it just keeps on plugging along. We get out here one way and one way only. I want to say thank you again to everybody in the posse. Thank you to Albert Mile High Dutchy and Trevor Rocket Mount Salzman for being here with me tonight. It's always a pleasure. But we're going to get out here by saying, make sure you keep your boots in the stirrups, keep those guns in the holsters, and keep the Denver Broncos in your heart. Until next time, we're out of here. Have a great night, everybody.